Hi Scotland. We are a non-Scot. What did you think you were voting for? In September 2014 the question on the ballot may have said independence. But forget the terminology for a moment. What it meant was, do you want Scots to have the power over their own lives, or do you want to leave it up to whoever is in charge in Westminster? Now you may have looked at nice David Cameron and thought he's not so bad. I'll go with him. But that's as stupid as not voting yes because you didn't like Alex Salmond. It was a vote on running the country of the future. You know, the place your kids will live in and their kids. In case you hadn't noticed, governments change. Politicians come and go. Ideas develop and fade. The point was to ask yourself, where are the best decisions likely to be made in your interests? Edinburgh or London? Who's likely to have Scotland's interests closest to heart? Scots at Holyrood or an 85% English Parliament? Did you honestly never consider that events might alter the course of history? Did you miss the Barrow Boy Anybody But England by Liv UKIP? Did you ponder what kind of person Ian Duncan Smith was? Or Boris Johnson? Were you listening to what they were saying? There was an election after you voted no in 2014. It all but wiped out the voices of unionism here. This was a message as unambiguous as an iceberg. It said to the London government that we were in revolt. We'd had enough. The referendum vote was a warning, one that could be repeated, and we were now saying from the far north to the border that we demanded real change this time. We were sick of constitutional complexities and double-speak. This was the last chance. Deep, permanent, comprehensive devolution of powers to put an end to the resentment, or the drums will start up again. Instead of mature discussion, we got every amendment to the legislation based on the Smith irrelevance was ignored. We live in a nation where a single MP, perhaps the most personally unimpressive individual ever to hold ministerial office, represents the entire elected strength of the state. What he says counts more than the First Minister's voice, more than your opinion, more than the entire electorate of Scotland. We have a government representative who has said that the country he speaks for does not exist in law. He has said it is not his job to be Scotland's man in cabinet. He has though led a piece of legislative chicanery which purported to guarantee Holyrood's place in UK decision-making by making it the most powerful devolved parliament in the world. Smith declared that the parliament should be made permanent in UK legislation, and the Sewell Convention put on a statutory footing. This was unctuously portrayed by Mundell as a major unmeaningful concession, but the wording made clear it was no such thing. They are political, not legal considerations, as the Supreme Court has duly ruled. Did you yearn to believe them? Do you console yourself by pretending that Theresa May and her violent anti-EU maneuver is really listening to you? Forgive me, but if so, should you reconsider your own mental competence? What does it take to make you realize that as a Scottish resident and, collectively as a nation, you are a second-class citizen in your own country? Are we now so filled with self-revulsion that humiliation has lost its meaning? There are intelligent and wise people I know who believe fervently in Scotland and England hanging together and truly find independence an alien creed. If you're one of them, how do you look at this judgment from the highest court in your United Kingdom, which says loud and clear your government believes you to be unworthy of consultation, so far beneath contempt that even with the strongest devolved government in the world in a resounding vote to remain in the EU, you will be disregarded, swept aside like crumbs from their table? Remember, this is their view too of people of the other nations of the UK, the United Kingdom. This is a government that is trying desperately to prevent submitting its plan to democratic scrutiny in Parliament, that is being dragged into using the time-honored process of representative democracy. Such epic arrogance was never going to accommodate anything as insignificant as Scottish opinion. And this is what you voted for. I grow tired of the outrage of those who wheedled their way via the media through the referendum by placing their faith in British promises of fair play, and somehow if we stayed loyal, the honest yeomanry of old England would see us right. Squire, they may not have wanted independence nor seen its necessity, but in their inner tortured soul did they really think the British would cede what Scotland wanted? All experience points the opposite way, and they concede the least they can get away with. Even the tax-raising powers are devised as a trap by funneling revenue-raising into income tax only so as to become politically unpopular. To the Westminster parties, we aren't a country on a map, we are a board on which a game of politics can be played. First to screw the SNP is the winner. Call it snakes and ladders. From 7 a.m. that day in September until 10 p.m. we held the power to control our country, our destiny, if you like. When you voted no, you handed it all back to people who couldn't care less. Oh sure, they'll go along with you but only until you demand something they're uncomfortable with. Then they'll give you a sad wee look and say, "Nah, doesn't suit me. And no F, we're in this mess now because of your vote." However legitimate you thought it was to turn down your own country's independence. Perhaps it was because of those broad shoulders that would take the strain. Well, those shoulders are shrugging at you today. I can only think that as a no voter you pretend none of this really matters and it'll turn out okay. And whatever disasters befall Britain, independence was always going to be worse. If so, it confirms the view I expressed right back at the beginning when the campaign got going, that voting no was a declaration that Britain was your real country, and Scotland second. After the statement of English superiority within the UK and a rejection of the rights of the other nations to be heard on the defining issue of the day, you still turned your back on the self-respect that independence represents. You are turning your back on Scotland. That is, you are expressly rejecting a Scotland that can breathe as a nation, not just an administrative sub-region, one that can exercise its own version of democracy and reflect the wishes of its people. Frankly, it's getting to the stage that submitting to this is pretty much admitting that Scotland isn't a country at all. Time to take a look at yourself, look at your country and what's being done to it. Consider your children's future in a place where the government says you don't matter outside the world's biggest market and the most integrated fusion of westernized democracies. That is, if Scotland still means anything to you, be it Holyrood March 23rd, no excuses. Let them hear you roar hands off. We need to, as a nation, must make a stand, so it is important that we attend this event. It's no longer a matter of yes or no debates from 2014. They are out to obliterate the Scottish nation. To all who voted no in 2014 but claimed to be a good, proud Scots, you need to awake and rise with us, your brothers and sisters, to save this nation. No longer can we stand by and let Westminster tramp over us. Stand with us as our brothers and sisters. We are many, they are few. Rise like lions from slumber, in unvanquishable number. Shake your chains to earth like dew, which in sleep had fallen on you. We are many, they are few. Rise like the phoenix from the ashes until the lambs have become lions. Fear nothing and the rule of darkness will be no more. Join with us on March 23rd. We are Scotland. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
Technology has driven our world to a drastic state of vulnerability. With the proliferation of government and corporate surveillance, personal information is targeted and tracked with unimaginable reach. But in this age of rapidly eroding privacy, there are some who have dedicated themselves to the effacement of the digital self. They are the self-appointed guardians of internet morality, executing aggressive campaigns for social justice by the power of the crowd. They are a screaming cry for reform to the complacent, and a flaming light of revelation to the covert. While they demand transparency of government and corporate institutions, they themselves remain hidden in the shadows of the cyber world. Utilizing the digital screen as a mask, they possess an unbridled authority and instant escape from jeopardy. They possess anonymity.
We are anonymous. We are legion.
Allowing anyone to call its name, Anonymous is dynamic in its portrayal. This is their strength, and this is their fault. The actions of Anonymous fall between the cracks of cyber warfare and political advocacy, manifesting as unstoppable cyber infiltrations with intent to dissuade and cripple targeted organizations. Anonymous thrives in the era of hacktivism. Riding the line between rational and reckless, legal and illegal, these acts of cyber vandalism often expose where authority falls short and fails to act. Anonymous is reactive and adaptable, riding the wings of current events with vigilance and poised to strike. Anonymous is more powerful and relevant than ever. For this force, the voice voice of none is stronger than the voice of one.
We do not forgive. We do not forget.